everyone, welcome to Disc Golf Valley Tips and Tricks, and I have just grabbed myself a coffee and am ready to do a walkthrough, kind of a run through, and showing you some tips on Coyote Canyon. First hole is owned by the 10-speed, usually a musket. This extra turn, extra glide would probably be fine. In fact, why don't we try that? The idea is to put your chevron pointer right in between this column and the tree, and in this wind, I probably pull it straight back, except for this turn attribute. I might just put a little bit of a hyzer on that, and it should come in for a nice landing right by the basket, or close enough. Now that strong wind, I should have probably held back a little bit. Let's try it again and see if we can't get some different wind conditions. Yeah, a 1-speed, we should be fine just using the PD, and like the roll attribute on this, it's not going to go sliding off into the desert there. And just a little bit of a hyzer. That's kind of more what we're looking at, or looking for, I should say. Now, even though you can't see the basket, remember you can straddle just by sliding over, and should be able to just toss that in. One thing you have to be careful when you are putting like that is not to point down any, or you end up shooting down to the ground. I don't know if I need to show you any again. It's a pretty consistent shot. Let's see, what's our wind? I think we can still just get away with the PD here. Maybe put just a little bit more hyzer on it. And there's not much else I can show you on that. So let's move on to hole number 2. Okay, hole number 2. And this can be a rather challenging hole to get your birdie on when you first start out in this game. And that makes it difficult to get your 3 stars when you can't birdie every hole like this. But if you have a good distance driver, like we have been recommending for this Jumpstart series, to purchase a few good discs, and the Zeus is going to be perfectly fine. But if you're going the free route, where you're trying to 3-star all the courses just with the discs that you naturally accumulate, you're about the only one you have to work with is this Ballista. Picked that up about 3 or 4 courses back, but I'm not sure that this actually makes it. The idea is to get up over this canyon wall and skip down into the next canyon valley on the other side of it on your drive, rather than go at the ground level and come around it. That's where you lose your point. You end up with a par. So you need to get up over this bank somehow, and different discs, you'll approach this different ways. Some you'd slide over and point up here, and if you have a good, powerful distance driver, you can get up over this. My route is to usually put my chevron right about here, and then with my distance driver, just pull straight back or just a little bit over, and that usually skips over. But I don't know. I can't remember if this Ballista actually makes it. Let's try it. It's a little short. And you see, when you're stuck back here, well, right there we have a pretty straight shot. Let's see. Maybe use the beach ball here. Yeah, a little hard to aim it just right to get in there, so you end up losing that birdie and have to be satisfied with a par. Let's try it one more time. Let's see the wind condition this time. Okay, a little bit different wind. Let's try it again. See if there isn't any chance for this ballista to get up and over. Okay, well, it lands up on the platform, which can help. It's a little challenging to get this into the tunnel where the basket is, this mining tunnel, when you're landing up here. But let's maybe take our PD and see what we can do. You have to kind of really point it down from up here. Okay. Well, I stand corrected. Maybe you will be able to birdie this hole even with no purchase discs at this point. But the idea is to just take a good distance driver, and we'll use our Zeus here, and I point my chevron right about there, and depending on the wind, I might adjust the hyzer a little bit, and then that usually just comes around, skips, bounces. Yeah, that's what you really want, a distance driver with a good skip attribute. And then from here, you should be able to pop it into the tunnel, and if you're a little closer, maybe even go for your eagle. And then you've got a nice birdie. So that's the play on that one. Let's go on. This hole, there are ways to actually get an eagle on this, but we'll maybe show some of those lines in upcoming videos. Today we're just kind of showing you lines to help you get your 3 stars. Yeah, so we won't make this video so long. I would maybe pick up either the ballista or the beach ball rive here, put your pointer about there. Just put a little bit of a backhand or a little bit of an anhyzer on that. Have it come around. And then I'd go to a forehand and just probably use the PD. Sometimes you'll still get that basket and pull off an eagle going this way. But it's a little rarer than the other way. The other way is a little kind of risk reward. You often end up in the river. I don't know if there's anything else I can show you. That is the line for a birdie. Try the ballista this time. I was mentioning in a previous video, this ballista has a very similar flight path as that beach ball rive. So there's what you need to do for that hole. Next. All right, this can be very intimidating the first time you play this game. Where's the basket even? Well, you can see the little symbol there, but is it down in that rock somewhere? Do you go through? Do you go around? Well, the best approach is to take probably from this collection that we've got in our bag, I would probably just maybe even use the rive. But you can use a 10 speed here, you can use 11 speed. Maybe we'll show a couple different. The idea is just to point it right in the center there, and depending on the wind, you might have to practice this a little bit with your disc of choice to know how to thread this needle. The idea is to come through here and come around to the basket without hitting lots of objects or trees, dead trees. But this usually gets you down close enough to get your birdie. And there's no real other way than going through. I suppose if you had a really good distance driver, you might go around, but who knows where you land and skip. But let's maybe try the PD and see if it makes it. A good 10-speed glide disc does get through here. And don't worry that you might hit a few walls, because it usually bounces through. Yeah, that PD just didn't have quite enough energy and leaves us a little further away than what we would like. So let's try the extra glide musket there and see if that is what we can use. You should have picked up an extra... Oh, that isn't... Oh, yeah, it is an extra... You should have picked up an extra glide musket by now, somewhere along the way. So that brings you up pretty close. So you can see you can use almost any disc from 10 speed up to a distance driver. I mean, we could even use our Zeus here. It's too much disc, but it still gets through. And let's see how it does here. And it's basically a pull straight back usually. You know, if you have a really odd wind condition, you might want to make some adjustments there. I think the strategy that I would recommend is just deciding on which disc that you want to use and then try it in various wind conditions. And then you'll know how to handle different winds on this hole. All right, moving on. All right, this hole, if you have the driver, the distance driver, especially a bounce distance driver, you have an opportunity to pick up an eagle here. That doesn't always happen, but at least this is one of the holes where you have a chance at getting an eagle. Let's take our distance driver, the Zeus, the skipper, and with our drive we want to come up close to the pedestal where the basket is on. We're a little farther back than what we normally like, but let's see if we can get this. Yeah, so there you go for an eagle. And but again, you do need that skip distance driver. It can be a Ballista Pro skip, a Rive skip, any good distance driver with a skip attribute will get you close enough for your eagle. And whatever disc you decide to use, again, practice in different wind conditions. The idea is to bring it around. Well, this is not good. Behind some sagebrush here, but I think we'll be okay. Even if you don't get your shot here, you at least end up with a birdie. Coming back, shooting uphill, like to point it right just below the top rim there, and then pull back as normal. Watch for your cameraman there, and in it goes. And we get our birdie. I know that when you're first starting out, I can remember how frustrating this hole was, because if you didn't know how to throw in very well, you're going back and forth, you end up with a triple bogey. But you'll get it. This one here, I I would say if you have the grace, go ahead and use that here. Change it to forehand, point it about there. Put a little bit of an anhyzer on it. Not too much with this grace, especially because it's going to go off on its own anyways. And from here, it's just a nice easy tossing. Slide over a bit. But if you don't have the grace, let's see, any musket will do. It helps if you have a musket with an extra glide attribute here. So not much else to show you on that one. All right, hole number 7. And this can be challenging to get the birdie as well. It's around this pillar here, and there's a little lake to deal with, and if you don't get around enough, you end up with a par. And even with the purchase disc that we have in our bag, we don't have the best. Even the Zeus, it has the distance, but it tends to go off a little bit to the right. I guess a turn is what we would say it has. And so you almost have to put quite a strong hyzer on it in this wind, but then you run the risk of hitting the pillar here. Let's see if this comes around. Oh, I think we'll be okay. As long as you can get past that little opening there, it usually bounces into place. If you happen to get the west side disc, it actually can work here as well. The 14-speed extra glide light. Now it has a real tendency to go off to the right as well. So you have to, again, put the hyzer on it. But then you don't run quite as much of a risk of... I think we'll be okay. Of hitting that first pillar. For the birdie. All right, there's one more line that you might want to try that's kind of fun. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for a 3-star run or when you're in competition, but the idea is to put your pointer over about here with this west side disc and then put quite a hyzer on it so that you go around to the left side of that pillar. And get your basket that way, get your birdie that way. All right, let's move on. All right, the best disc is your musket or a 10-speed of some kind that has the roll attribute here, and bring your chevron somewhere down about here, depending on your 10-speed. Whatever 10-speed you decide you're going to use on this hole, you need to practice this because everyone will be just a little bit different here. But the idea is put it down about here, and then depending on the wind conditions, move it back and forth horizontal. And you just need to practice with the disc of your choice to know what to do here. And then there's a chance at an ace here. And if you have one that has a roll attribute, even if you miss the ace, it's not going to go very far. And then the idea is just to pull straight down here and hope it swings around and in. Now when it hits the top of the basket like that, it does skip a little bit further than what you'd like, but Usually, if you've learned how to throw at this distance, it's usually not a problem to come back for your birdie. And yeah, like I say, it's just a matter of practicing this. And you won't get your ace every time, but once you get comfortable with the disc of choice there, then you'll get the ace every once in a while, and every little bit helps. This particular PD, I am finding just flies a little bit higher and stronger than my regular 10-speed roll disc. And so I would need to spend some time with it in order to get more consistent aces here. But birdie is all you need. All right, last hole. And any good distance driver will work here. But again, whatever one you decide, you need to practice it, because you can end up hitting the canyon wall and not go very far on your drive. But if you have a Zeus, I would say put it down about here and just pull straight back, and it should go to the left of that first pillar. And leave you a nice clean shot at the basket. And probably just pull the Zeus out again, but I would go point way down on this, otherwise you're going to hit the top of the arch there. And you don't want that. But that's kind of what we're looking for a nice birdie. Can try your west side disc here and go to the other side of that pillar. It naturally has a tendency to go off to the right anyway, but you might want to put just a little bit of an anhyzer on this. You don't want to put too much or you'll end up hitting the canyon wall. Oh, it does come back and hit the pillar. All right, so I kind of think that the best throw here, the best chance, is just using the Zeus and have it come off to the left. As we have been demonstrating. You like it when it rolls down the hill like this. You have even a rare chance of getting an eagle. All right, well, I think that's what I wanted to show you for this video, and hope that you were able to pick up a few lines there that might help you with your 3-star run. And speaking of 3-star runs, we're planning to do ours next. So if you want to take a look at how we get ours, just be sure and pop back here at Disc Golf Valley Tips and Tricks. So long for now.